And Malka's's Glow Up. We turn old to gold. Let's go. Don't throw it out. Bring it back to life. Glow up, glow up. Yeah, we make it bright.
Welcome to What's on My Table Thursday. Today on my table here is my manila paper. So I got my manila paper, I got my set square, and I have this pencil. And this is the best pencil if you're drafting patterns. And I also have my measurements right here. Right now I'm squaring down the back. Next I'm squaring across for the shoulder. Checking my measurements, marking the length of the bodice. Marking the squaring across, checking to make sure that both sides are equal. Checking my measurements again from waist to hip. And I'm going to square that across. Marking the shoulder, squaring across, also calculating the numbers. It's a lot going on here. So from the neck to the shoulder, I mark that across. I'm also checking again for my numbers. I'm marking up. I'm marking the front shoulder. Creating a bodice block, if you are new to this, there's a lot going on. I'm not a pattern maker and I find it sometimes is a bit much, but you have to be able to have the correct pattern, make sure your measurements are accurate, and create your pattern. Now marking out the back armhole. Working on the front armhole, marking that out, just making sure that the shaping is correct. So I'm just erasing one line that I did that wasn't so smooth. So things like this happen in real time. All right, so what I'm doing here is taking the marker and reinforcing the pencil marks. So what I wanted was to make sure that when I'm done that you'd be able to see exactly what I was doing. So I fast forward the video just to speed it up a bit. Now I'm writing information on the pattern that is needed. So this is what I was drafting here. I'm not a pattern maker, but at the same time I managed to draft the bodice block, and this is for my customer. So this is so when you make patterns, basically whether it's for yourself or not, just for information purposes, always jot down a few information here. So these are some of the information that I have written down here. All right, so let's move on to the next. What I'm doing here is basically marking where my notches are going to be. And these are my green lines. I'm tracing out the shoulder dart simply because by tracing it out, it's much easier to fold. Right here, I'm folding the dart over. Then I'm going to cut off the excess dart at the top. So this is a notch clipper. I don't know if that's the right word, but this is what you use to um, to get your notches in the pattern. Right, so I cut the pattern out, and I just want to show you something really important. Is that before you cut your pattern, always make sure to mark everything that you need to mark, whether it's the notch point, information, grain line, bust line, waistline, whatever it is. Make sure and put all your markings on your pattern. For example, before I cut this out, I mark right across the side seams here, and I also mark across the sleeves here. And the same thing I did on top of the shoulders. Each shoulder has a notch. Then I cut it out. So when I cut this out, I would have a notch on each side where they're supposed to be, right? So when I cut my material and getting ready to sew, because I'm going to transfer all the markings here onto the material. So when I go to sew the side seam, my two notches should meet. No overlap here and no overlap at the hem, because I accurately mark my notch here in the side seam. Okay? Also, for on top of the shoulder, I put my notches in the shoulder. That's one here and this is one here. So when I go to join my shoulders, these two notches should meet. So that would, right here, should be no lap over, and there should be no lap over along the neckline. All right? The notches on the armhole right here is for when I go to put my sleeve in. I should have notches in my sleeve as well, so that they match against the back and the front notch. All right, so always make sure and mark your work. All right, so what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna take out this dart and extend the hip area. So the first thing I'm going to do here is cut the dart down on one side. And when you cut the dart down, cut it down right on the bust line. You see all these marks, they are for a reason. So this is my bust line. That's my bust line going across here. So when you cut the dart down, you cut it up to the bust line. Right. What I'm going to do here is put a mark from my bust line straight down to the hip line. I'm going to cut this right up to the bust line. All slash and spread. Alright, so as I said before, I want to move this dart down here. So in order to move this dart, these is the steps that you take. In order to move this particular dart, other darts, they're different ways to do it, right? But for this particular dart, this is what you do. You have a dart at the top or at the bottom, wherever. You cut that, but you cut it on one side. I prefer to cut the dart here on the line closest to the center front, down to the bust. That's it. And then you draw a line down to the hip. You can do that before or after, it doesn't matter. And then after that, you cut the line from the hip up to the bust. Try not to cut it right through. You know, just cut it close enough so it can swing. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is take the center front half right here. I'm going to take the center front half right here, and I'm going to bring it over to this line, basically closing up this dart, and then you're going to see the dart transfer. You're going to see the dart transfer down here. So I'm going to lift this up and bring it over. Oops. And I'm going to just place it right next to the line that was there before. Just onto the line. So once you move this over here, you just get some tape and you just tape it in place. Just shape out the neck here, basically cutting off the excess dye. Okay, and that's that. So I do not want a dot, I only want it to increase the size. Alright, so what I'm going to do next is just place a piece of paper under here. Right, and then I'm going to tape this down. So I'm going to take my pattern master, and all I'm going to do is just shape around here. And cut that. So nothing will change here. The pattern will be the same. The only thing is that you will have more fullness in the front. So I'm getting ready to create a culotte. So I have a skirt block here for the same customer, and I'm going to be creating a culotte from the skirt block. So first I'm going to trace around the block, making sure to mark all my notches as well as the dots. I'm piercing a hole at the end of the dot in order to transfer the full length of the dart onto my paper underneath. All right, so this is my hole puncher for the pattern. So I'm just going to put a hole in it just so when I'm ready to hang it, I have that ready. I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to mark across the hip line. I'm marking out my darts. And the seam allowance at the waist. Then I'm going to measure from the seam allowance down to my crotch line. And then a square across the pattern. Right here, I am also placing my my seam allowance. Then I'm going to measure from the seam allowance to the center back. And that's where I'm going to find out how much I need to extend that line. So after I finish marking the line across, I'm gonna right between the straight line center back and the extension. In between that, I'm gonna mark about 3 centimeters, and that would help me to create the curve for the back. Then from the extension, I'm gonna draw a straight line down to the hem. I'm ready to cut out my first piece. Join in my green line. And all the other information needed. What I did with the front, I believe, or the back, whichever one is that, I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. I believe the first piece of pattern, yeah, that the first one I did was the front. This one is the back. So exactly what I did to the front, I'm going to do to the back. The only thing is that the extension on the back is much longer. So you will have to calculate your measurements to get correct the correct amount in order to extend. All right, so this is my culotte done. So what I'm going to do next is basically mark my notches. So I have my Culotte trousers. I have my skirt block. And I have my bodice block. So I have all the patterns I need for my customer. I hope you guys like this video. Don't forget to subscribe and please like the video, and I'll see you next Thursday. If there are any questions, please feel free to ask me in the comment section for more tutorials on a Thursday.
Turn it brand new, style so fresh, make the world go buzz.